YouTube? Welcome back. Today I'm going to walk you through how to optimize your training. So how to get the most out of your training, how to perform the best within your training to therefore help you get the best results that you can get. Don't forget, if you do enjoy the video, please do drop a like. If you've got any questions, throw them down in the comments. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. Okay, so when it comes to getting the most out of your training, performing the best you can, the majority of that is going to come down to how well you recover. Okay, now the few biggest tips for how well you can recover to therefore get the most out of your training are, first and foremost, the amount of volume that you're doing. Okay, simply put, you want to make sure that you are not simply doing too much volume. Okay, volume can be the amount of sets that you're doing per muscle group, can be the amount of weight that you're shifting, the amount of reps that you're doing. Okay, those three things combined are the total amount of volume that you're doing within your training. If your volume is too high and you can't recover from it, so let's say you're getting very bad DOMs, those DOMs are staying for a decent amount of time, maybe even when you come to train that muscle group again, you've still got those DOMs. If the volume is too high and you're not recovering, then you're simply not going to be able to perform the best you can. So you need to spend a little bit of time, which might come down to trial and error. If you haven't seen my video on how to work out how many sets you want to be doing in the training, go and watch that. But you want to work out and spend a little bit of time gathering some data on where volume needs to sit for you so that you're working with a decent amount but you're still recovering. Secondly, frequency. Okay, you want to make sure that you are not training the same muscle group too soon before you've had time to recover. So this is going to come down to how many times you're training a week and what muscle or what training split, you decide to use within your training. Okay. For example, if you are training that same muscle group, let's say you're training chest on days back to back, chances are, depending on the amount of volume you're doing, that muscle group's not going to have time to recover within a 24-hour period before you train it again, and therefore you're not going to perform as well as you can. So try and make sure that you're giving yourself long enough between training that same muscle group for it to recover. Thirdly, away from training, intake. Simply put, you need to be making sure you're eating enough to recover optimally. Now, depending on your goal, obviously if your goal is fat loss, then you're obviously still going to have to be in a calorie deficit, so recovery might be hindered a little bit, but we don't want to be eating too little that it really hinders our recovery a lot. Okay? Or if you're trying to build muscle mass in a similar fashion, we want to make sure we're eating enough to actually help us recover from the amount of volume that we're doing, especially if we're progressing volume over time, and therefore the recovery needs are going to be more. Are we matching that with a progression of food intake? And then fourthly, again, away from training, sleep. Simply put here, sleep is going to be a vital part of the process of when we're going to recover. Therefore, we need to be doing all we can to make sure sleep is as good as possible. In the next few days, I'm going to put a video up on how to optimize sleep. So make sure you do check that out. But we need to make sure we are sleeping as best as we can, getting as good a quality sleep as we can, because that's going to go a long way to recovery and therefore training performance and our results. So recovery is going to play a large role in how well we can train and how well we can perform in training. But past recovery, after recovery, there's going to be some other things that are going to obviously then make a difference. For example, let's say our pre-workout food intake, so the meals we're having before we train, are going to contribute and are probably going to make a difference. Right? There's a few things I'd look out for here. One, making sure you're eating in an optimal time before you train. Okay, so one, obviously we don't want to be eating too far ahead of training, that by the time we get there what we've had isn't really going to be making too much of a difference. And then secondly, we don't want to be eating too close to training that when we go to train, it's feeling uncomfortable, we may be feeling a bit sick with it. Okay, so I would say, try and eat at least 30-45 minutes before you're going to go train, maybe an hour, but maybe probably don't leave it too much longer than, let's say, 2 to 3 hours before you're going to train. Now, in terms of what you want to be eating before you train, very simply put, I would try and prioritize a carb majority food intake before you go train, because carbs are going to be the primary fuel source. And then I would also include some level of protein in there, just so we have that during training, but also more importantly, just to help with frequency of protein feedings through the day. Okay, so we've looked at recovery, we've looked at pre-workout in terms of what we might potentially want to be eating, and then intra-workout, just a couple of things to consider here. So during training, probably first and foremost, most important, stay hydrated when you train. Okay, you know, dehydration will definitely have an impact on your performance and your training performance. So make sure you stay hydrated. Secondly, if you're training for a long period of time, and I'm talking like a long period of time, so maybe like more than like 2 hours of training, then you might find benefit of having like a intra-workout carbohydrate drink or something like that. Okay. If you're not training for a long time though, say your training's only like say 1 to 2 hours or something, then you're probably not going to need something like that. But if you are training for a long period of time, let's say you're doing something like endurance training or something like that, then it is probably worth considering. And then finally, we couldn't do a video like this without talking about supplements, because everybody loves supplements. There's only one supplement that I would really recommend when it comes to getting the most out of your training, just because it's heavily researched and has found to have positive benefits, and that is creatine monohydrate. Take creatine monohydrate, not relatively expensive, so most people can probably afford it. But like I said, that's been the most heavily researched to have found positive benefits towards training, so it's definitely worth taking. Other than that, there's no other supplements I would really say you need to take. I think pre-workout is, to be honest with you, overrated in terms of most people use it before they've even taken into consideration all of the things we've spoken about, before they've even taken into consideration making sure their workout is as good, as intensity as it's needed, form and execution spot on, all the other training variables that we can talk about. A lot of people take pre-workout before they've worked on those things, and the other things are going to do a lot more for your training than pre-workout itself. Hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please do drop a like. If you've got any questions, throw them down below. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.